Hi, my name is Moriah Ray-Britt. I'm a visual artist and I'm here to show you how to animate your work in Photoshop. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. And I'm going to Photoshop. So this is a file that I have of my work. Let me just put myself over here. um, this is a file with 3 layers in it. This is images of my monotype, my monoprints of a series of work that I have. And what I want to do is just simply make the artwork move. This is about slate, monoprint slate, and I want to kind of give the impression that you're um, walking on a sidewalk and you're looking down and you're seeing these plates move in front of you. What I've done was I've scanned in my work and then I've copied them over as layers all on the same file. And I kind of want to keep this vertical look, so I'm going to keep the file size to like a 5-inch by 17-inch walkway. And what I've done with this originally was I believe I posted it on Instagram and I was able to crop it to the square via Instagram. It wasn't really, didn't really affect my work, but you could size your work to whatever is manageable for you. For the Patchwork Arts Council submissions, they'll give you some sizes, some pixel dimensions to adhere to. So you can plug that in here and size your work accordingly. So I have my 3 layers visible. And I'm going to go over to the top here under Window. And I want to view the timeline. So click that. Let's start over. Okay. So when you're first doing this, when you first open up Timeline, this is what you'll see. And what I want to do is create frame animation. So I'll click on that. And there is my first frame. So what I want to do next is make the movement from frame 1 to frame 2 and move my layers the way that I'd like to see them. So I'm going to go over to this little button here. It says duplicate selected frame. I'm going to hit that. And this is frame 2. From frame 2, I want this layer to move down. I'm going to hold down the shift key to just keep it in place as I move down my frame. I'm going to move it to my first block. But I also want the this layer 2 to start at the beginning of it. So holding down my shift key, I'm just going to move this up briefly. Align it with layer 3 seamlessly. So this is what I want to see. If I click on frame 1, this is the first image. Frame 2 is the second. So the second image is that layer 3 has moved down and you can visibly see layer 2 beginning. And I'm going to go over here and hit this duplicate frame again. And I'm going to move down layer 2 and layer 3. I'm going to hold down the shift key and click layer 2 and then layer 3. So now both are selected. Holding down the shift key, I'm going to just move down my layers. And you don't have to hold down the shift key. You could kind of eyeball it, move it around, whatever you want to see. But for me, I kind of want to keep this as like a vertical line. There's my third frame. Frame 1, frame 2, frame 3. I'm going to duplicate it again and move these frames down a little bit to reveal layer one, my third piece of art. So layer one, I really want to start at the beginning again, so I'm going to move this one up to the top and align it with layer two kind of seamlessly. Not too concerned with being exact, but just trying to make that movement happen. And then I'm going to hit duplicate layer again. And this time I have layer one selected. I'm going to hit shift key and select layer two as well. And move these guys down. Layer one is visible. I'm going to do one more frame because I also want this to move down and start at the beginning again. But I want this area to be revealed before we jump to this frame. So I'm going to hit duplicate. I'm going to move this layer down. And this layer comes up and aligns. One, two, three, four, five, six. Great. I'm just going to hit Command S for save, or you could go up to File and then hit Save here. Okay. So down below each frame, there's a seconds timer, and you could have a 0 second point, no second delay, or they have some presets here, 0.1, 0.2, 0.5, and then you could also put whatever increment you want, 0.3 seconds, 0.4 seconds. So that's helpful. If I go over here to the little triangle play button, I can hit this and see what happens. So this is the frame animation with no delay, and it's really fast. I'm just going to stop it and go back to frame one. And I'm going to add in some delay between the frames. I'm going to hit this little down arrow, and I like 0.2 seconds. I think that's a good amount of time to transition. I could do this individually, or I could click on a few frames at once to change all of their delays at the same time. So if I have frame 3 selected, I'm going to hold down my shift key and roll over to frame 6. Now all of these frames are selected. And I'm going to roll down and say 0.2 seconds for each. Now I could, I always try to start back at frame 1 so I could see from the beginning how this will transition. Also, there's a timer here that you can have this loop forever, or 3 times or once, or do a custom amount of times you want your frames to loop. So let's try, I'm going to hit spacebar because that's also, that's the shortcut for the play option. And so now my animation is moving the way I'd like it to, but it's a little choppy. So I'd like to tween between the frames. Like I'd like the frames to have some transitions between them. So you could see a little bit more. It's more like you are walking on the sidewalk. So when I roll over to this button, this is these little circles here. This is the tween animation frame button. Let me hit this. So it's going to ask tween with the next frame. So the frame I have selected is frame 1. So it's going to tween with the frame 2. It's going to ask me, like, you could select the layers that you'd like to have transition. You could have all layers, which in this case, it doesn't really matter too much to me. But I'm going to have the parameter of position. And I don't have any opacity or effects change, so I'm just going to unclick those and hit OK. And now it's given me 5 frames that will show the transition between the original frame 1 and frame 2. So if I hit the space bar, you see how slowly that goes and how nicely that's just a little smoothing of the process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I'm going to tween again between these two. Tween between this one and this one so that you could show the layers coming down. That's a little nicer. That's just trial and error, testing these out, seeing how it plays. It's all part of the process. If you're unhappy with something, you could always trash that frame. Sometimes I get a little confused about what frames I have on, so sometimes I'll just trash a bunch of them and just start over and tweening the layers. It's important to kind of have an idea of what you want to do before you jump in. Just a general idea of how you want things to animate or appear and disappear. It's very helpful when you begin. So I kind of like this, like slow and then fast and then slow. But I'm going to tween one more layer. Like maybe this one sounds right. And then this was fine, but I want to tween between the last layer and the first layer because it will loop, and I'd like you to see that transition as well. So we're going to go up here, tween, and it's going to ask me, do you want the between this one and the previous frame? Because this is the last frame. I'm going to say the first frame. Okay. And now my animation is coming to life. And hopefully you see the effect and of like someone walking on sidewalks, which these monoprints were inspired by. Okay, I'm gonna hit spacebar again to stop this. And I always like to go to my first frame and file, save. Now I'm going to create a GIF out of this. So I'm going to go to file. Actually, let me just show you the shortcut for this. If you hit Shift, Option, Command S, you're going to have this shortcut to save for web. And what I want to do is save this as a GIF. And it will give me all of these different ways. Like if you wanted a smaller file, you can play with how many colors, and Photoshop will give you your color palette of limited colors and all that. Just makes the file smaller, which is important. If you look down here on the lower left, you see my file is almost 10 megabytes. It's pretty large. The other way to make it smaller is down here under percent. I could go maybe just play with this a little bit and just see. It will also make the size of the file a little bit smaller. And you can see it's made my file size smaller. It'll also ask you if you want to loop once or forever. GIFs are fun because they can loop forever. MP4s don't loop forever. You have to kind of manipulate it to look like it does, but it will always have a finite amount of seconds that it's the video that it's playing. So I think I'm going to see if I can make this a little tinier by just limiting my palette a little bit more, and maybe bringing this up to bring it to 90%. So it's just a little bit smaller. And then I could always hit preview down here, and it will bring me up to my browser. And this is how my GIF is going to present in the browser. I think that's fine. I mean, great. All right, so if we hit save, and this is the GIF file, save. And now my animation has been saved. I can also export this as a video. I'm going to go to File and then Export. And down at the bottom here, say Render Video. And they'll come up here with just some suggestions where you could select the folder that you want to save it in. You can make this all different sizes. Like you can make this different formats, and then preset has high, medium, low quality. And then if you know specifically you'd like it to go on to video, like Vimeo or YouTube, you can size your video to that preset. So this is all fine for me. I'm going to hit render. And it's going to export my video and render it. I'm also going to hit Command S for save just one more time to make sure everything's saved. And that should be it. Hi, I wanted to just show you one more way to animate your drawings. And this is how to make something kind of appear in opacity. So we've went over moving our layers and tweening between that. I'm just going to show you what I did for this drawing. Again, I separated what I wanted to move and animate into layers. So, and I named them to make my life a little bit easier. I just had this rectangle for my background and just a nice light beige color. And I want to animate this tree to show the seasonal change. So I have winter here, and then I have spring, summer, and buds, and the blooms of the flowers. I want to show you something else as well. So if you go to your layers panel, these are all like clipped images from my drawings, but I've also kind of aligned them in a way that I know that they will be, there's no white space in any things that I have, that I really didn't want you to see like the background of my original sketch. So winter and spring are the two that I've multiplied. It's like a blending method of the layer. So this is the normal view of winter and spring, but in order for me to align these together, I was able to find how they align, but I also could change the blending layer, the blending of this layer. So I'm going to go to multiply, and now I know I could see both layers aligned on top of each other, and it's very helpful to find things, especially if you're starting to clip your drawings and there's like little white spaces, you know, from the paper. Like a lot of times when I'm doing watercolor, that will happen, and when I scan it in, I will do a nice background like this rectangle color, and then I'll multiply the layer so that those white spots kind of disappear. It's a useful tool. These don't seem to have um, much of that, but you can see if I go to buds and I hit multiply, you could see them kind of almost become transparent. And that's a nice look too. Like you could, yeah, buds. And then if I go back to normal, so you could see all the white in my original sketch appear. So if you wanted to really, if you're concerned with that, try using the different layer colors. Sometimes color burn, linear burn, darker color helps too. Okay, so I have all my layers that I wanted to put in, and I also have an idea of what I want to animate. So my first picture is winter, and this is just the bare branches and trunk of the tree. I'm going to roll down and hit duplicate, and I'm going to reveal the next layer, which is spring. And here come the little leaf buds. I'm going to duplicate again and hit summer. And then again, I'm going to come up to my buds. I wonder if I can show you actually, let's try multiply on this layer. Maybe duplicate the layer. I would have to go back to my layer one and take this one thing. When you add in layers as you go along the animation, you're going to have to go back to your original layer and just hide it. Not a big deal. So then maybe this layer has the, this frame has the buds in multiply version, but then the next one, this will be a normal. And then final, I have a multiply, it kind of looks pretty that way. So these are all set to 0.5 seconds. So let's see how that goes. Okay, so that's pretty, but it's choppy, right? So I'm going to go down to my tween, and it's going to ask me tween to the next frames to add. Let's say maybe 6 frames this time. The position is all the same, so I think I'm going to say opacity and effects, because I know that I want these frames to appear from transparent to opaque. And I also clicked effects because one of those frames also has the multiply effect on it, so I don't want to miss that out. I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to just briefly click to make sure that that's something I want to do. Then I know this is the choppy one, very choppy one. So let's make a little bit more frames here. It's going to be frame 8 frames to add between the two. And see how that works. So let's just add maybe 4 frames on this one. 1, 2, 4. And then this one, let's add maybe 3 frames to that, because it's just the same, the appearance of the buds, but now they're becoming opaque. And then one more screen, let's say 6 frames to the blooms. Pretty good. I'm going to go back to my frame 1. I'm going to hit the space bar. And now I immediately notice that it's moving really slowly. It's doing what I wanted it to do, and it's kind of nice to see how the transitions are coming along. Um, but I do want to correct that. So I'm going to select frames to, let's see, where do the buds appear? The buds definitely appear here. So I'm going to go from frame 2 to 7 and hit the select them holding down the shift key. So now it selects frames 2 to 7. And I'm going to just hit the down arrow on any one of those frames. And I'm just going to hit maybe 0.2 seconds. And I'm going to do that for the same way throughout because it's just it's very slow. But I will leave 0.5 seconds on the frames that or the original. And this little guy, let's make all of these up to the buds a lot faster, right? See if we can break it up that way. I think sometimes it can be a little bit get a little bit slow if it's you don't have a variety of timing on your frames. So I'm going to maybe start here. And actually, let's leave this one here and let's do 0.2 seconds on all of these. Okay. Now I'm going to hit Command S for save, and then I'm going to hit my spacebar to see how it plays. I do like that. Now from here, I could either loop back to the last frame. I could tween that from the last frame to the first frame, but I was thinking maybe I'd draw some more and maybe perhaps make fall or autumn, have the blooms kind of fall and the leaves change color and fall back to winter. So I'm just going to leave this as is. But you could see, you could change opacities and it could be fun to see the drawings come to life. It still has that handmade quality to it that digital work can miss at times. They get too glossy. And I do like some of these actual still images here too as work in and of itself. I hope that helps.